Hi, my name is Lisa. Welcome into your practice. Today we're going to be working with twisting, opening, lifting, and balancing. A little bit of everything for us today. For your practice, you may want to have a set of blocks that could be handy to have nearby. Perhaps a yoga belt or strap if you use that. And then maybe a blanket. I have one here in the space, so I'm just going to leave it there in case I need it. So you could use a blanket, or you could always use a beach towel as well. Come on down to the mat. We're going to recline onto our back to get started. Once we arrive there, take a few deep breaths and settle in any way that you'd like to. So maybe resting with your knees bent or with your legs straight, whatever feels good. Always nice to have a kind of official start to our practice, stepping onto the mat and taking a few deep breaths, or whatever your personal ritual might be. Inviting our breath to deepen, to become even. And then as you're ready to, with bent knees, feet down onto the mat, we'll walk the feet a little bit wider apart on the mat. Begin to windshield wiper the knees side to side. I always like to start out just in a smaller range of motion first, where you're basically rocking across the back of the sacrum. So just a couple of inches right, a couple of inches left. And then from there, if you'd like to broaden that out and take a wider range of motion, you can. It's nice to tune into some of the subtleties. Of course, our attention goes right to the really big stuff, but it's nice to fine-tune and pay attention to some things that are smaller and quieter. Now, as you're ready to, we're going to let both knees drop over to one side or the other. We'll do both, so it doesn't really matter which side you start with. And letting the knees drop over and stay there. You can always use a block on the outside of the bottom knee or the inside of the top knee. And then if you'd like to, we could create twisted root pose by crossing ankle over thigh. You'll figure that out pretty quickly, which one's going to go. And as we do that, we can draw a little deeper into the stretch that we might be experiencing through the outside of the leg, working its way up into the hip. Another option here too, that leg that you're feeling the stretch in, you could take that arm up overhead to increase the stretch along the sideline of the body. The other arm could stay by your side, or maybe move a little further out, or that arm could move overhead as well. Let's take one more deep breath there. As you're ready to, lowering the arms if you have them lifted, uncrossing the leg if you have them crossed over, come back into the center, and we'll windshield wiper the legs again. And letting the knees drop over to the other side, just making sure that you change sides. An option here to use blocks on the outside or insides of the knees. Option to cross ankle over top of the thigh if that feels good. Maybe even using blocks within this shape as well. And then if it feels good for you, you could take the arm or arms out, maybe up. If the arms don't come all the way down to the ground, it's okay to let them hang out in space if that feels comfortable. If that doesn't feel secure or comfortable to you, you might take a block, or I'm going to just take this blanket into place so it can help support my arm and make it feel just a little bit more relaxed, a little more comfortable. And we'll take one more breath here. As you're ready to, lowering the arms down, uncrossing the leg if you had it crossed. Come back through the center one more time, windshield wipering the knees. We'll bring it back into the center for just one or two bridge lifts, pressing down into the heels, lifting the hips up. Option to roll your inner thighs down toward the mat. As you lift, we can try that one more time. Sort of an internal rotation of the thighs there. Just a very subtle feeling again. And lowering it back down. We'll come over onto your side. I'll roll so that I can face you this way. And we're going to take side dancers. So if you think of dancer pose, bending the knee, taking a hold of the ankle or the shin here. Again, you might like to use a belt if you'd like. And maybe we're gonna take a block to use as a little pillow. Of course, I have a little pillow right here. I can use that as well. So as we come down, letting that leg swing behind you, taking a hold of the ankle. Now you don't even have to hold onto the ankle. Maybe you even set blocks here behind and let your leg rest on top of those blocks. That could make it perhaps a little more restful for you. And the bottom leg, knee could be bent or leg could be straight. Take a few breaths here. You're deepening the stretch on the front of the thigh just as much as you need to. We could pull the leg a little further behind us. We could also have the idea of pressing the pelvis forward, and that will help to increase some stretch when you need that. Taking one more breath here. As you're ready to, unwinding, we're going to come all the way over onto the abdomen, so just rolling around on the mat, moving to turn around, and we'll come through some locust lifts. Forehead touching the mat to start with an inhale breath, rising up, chest lifting, fronts of the thighs lifting. And take a breath in, breathe out, lower back down, turn your head to the side here. As you come down, lift up, and come back down, turn your head to the other side. We'll come up, option for you to take arms out in front. If we do that, or I should say one arm out in front, to lift opposite arm, opposite leg. Take a breath in, lower that down, change sides, opposite arm, opposite leg, lifting up, feeling that connection from back of shoulder to the opposite hip. Bring that back down, try it again, one more time on either side. And lowering down, changing sides. Good, and releasing back down. You could let your head rest all the way down onto your hands, or you could turn your head to the side, whatever feels good to you. And then just roll onto your other side. So we're going to repeat that side dancer. I'm only going to change sides so that I can be facing front, but you're welcome to just roll on over. Just keep listening. Again, a little pillow for your head here to make it just a little more comfortable. Swinging the leg behind you as we take side dancer. Now, of course, that probably wants to make your body roll backwards. Again, there's the possibility of using a block behind you. Maybe that allows you to relax into it a little more. I find that I can then focus on pressing the pelvis forward here as I support the leg behind me, not even having to hold onto it, still getting a nice stretch that way. And so however you are, you're breathing into the stretch that you're feeling, probably feeling that across the front of the thigh, knee that's bending. And then we'll take one more breath here. Releasing from our side dancer, coming onto your back. Again, if you do have a strap and would like to use it, you could use that here as we come into reclined hand to big toe pose. Lifting one leg up, if you've got the strap, wrapping that and pulling. Otherwise, hands can rest behind your thigh or resting behind your calf, whatever feels best. Opposite leg, you're welcome to leave that knee bent or stretch the leg out. For some of us, that's going to be a big stretch through hip flexors and top of the thigh. That can be nice when it feels good. And when it's really tight, sometimes it doesn't feel great. Also, just pay attention to how it feels in your back, whether you straighten that leg out or not. There's a difference between stretch and strain, and sometimes it's a fine line, so you really want to pay attention to how the rest of your body reacts. Whether that seems like something that you can settle into, or whether it seems like something that you're bracing against. One more breath here. And then as you're ready to, lowering back down, changing sides. Just going to turn around here. And you can stay right where you're at and just change sides. Other leg comes up. And of course, as we change from side to side, we may have different requirements. So maybe you want to stretch the leg out or leave the knee bent. And maybe that was different from the first time or the first side that you worked with. And that's perfectly fine. Not getting caught up in the idea that we have to do something exactly the same from one side to the other. Breathing into this places and spaces that you feel stretched. connected to that sensation. Let's take one more breath here. And as you're ready to, releasing the leg back down. Coming into reclined cobbler, you can do this one of two ways, leaving the feet down and letting the bent knees move apart here. We might also lift the feet up off the ground. Feet come together, bent knees move apart, and your hands can move on top of the shins or on top of the ankles to hold here. I'm kind of in between. I'm not sure which one I want to do. I think I'm going to leave the feet down today and let the bent knees move apart. And then if you do have the feet down on the ground, option to use the hands resting on your inner thighs or resting further out. You could simply lend some weight to your legs. Maybe it's not even that much weight. You might also want to just very gently press down and see how that feels. And just noticing how that resonates through both inner thighs and low back, or even back of the pelvis too. We'll take one more breath here. Drawing the knees back together. One more time, let's come through a bridge lift or two or three, pressing down into the heels, lifting the hips up. Possibility of that slight internal rotation, like you're trying to roll the inseams of your pants down toward the ground as you lift up. And we'll do one more of those. Great, any way that you'd like to. Coming up to a seat. Rolling up, sitting up nice and tall. Hands come behind the thighs. Lift the chest up and lengthen the spine. And we're thinking about length through the low back so that as we begin to move into Navasana, our boat pose, we're not rounding through the low back or tucking the tailbone under, but rather sitting up nice and tall. Now we'll roll back off of the sit bones. We're not right on top of the sit bones here. You're on the back of the hip. Hands can remain behind the thighs if you'd like. Low belly draws in and up to support the low back. And then if it feels good to you, we could start to float the feet off the mat. I'm working with a little hip issue, so my leg is really wanting to, my right leg's really wanting to turn out a lot. You may not have even noticed that, but I'm seeing it. And so if it's possible for you to keep your legs in neutral, and that would be indicated by your knees, but happening at the hips, you can do that. Another option for you would be perhaps taking a block between the knees. I don't know that my hip really wants to do that. And then of course another option is straightening one leg out or straightening both legs out. When that works for you, sit up nice and tall. Here's the time to find that length in your low back. Take a big breath in, and as you breathe out, land back down. And we can sit with legs crossed or however you'd like to. Take a big breath in, sit up nice and tall, and as you breathe out, hinge forward from the hips and then get around from the waist. Roll back up to the top, and we could do that a few times, just rolling through the spine. Great, let that one be your last one. We'll sit up nice and tall. Come on over to hands and knees, table. And once we get to our table pose, similar to what we were just doing seated, we'll move through cow and cat, arching and rounding through the back. Also feeling that your pelvis is tilting forward and tilting back. Getting as much articulation through the spine as possible. So the feeling, the sensation that you could move each bone along the spinal column, each vertebra independently from the next. May not really be happening, but we can imagine that. Creatively visualize. Great, and we'll take one more round through our cow and cat. Moving into downward facing dog and realizing this can take different shapes for different people. So maybe you're going to walk the hands forward and leave the knees down. That's a possibility. You might walk the hands a handprint forward and pick up the knees to stand onto your hands and your feet. Low belly draws in and up here. And anytime that you need to, you can always leave the forearms down and practice dolphin pose instead of your down dog. We'll take a few breaths here, and if you'd like to move your feet, of course, pedaling the feet always feels nice, or almost always feels nice. You might also lift and lower, so both heels come up, both heels come down. And then as you're ready to, any way you'd like to get there, 1 foot steps forward. I'm going to lower my knees back down and then step through. Take 2 blocks. We're going to put them up onto their high sides. And I'm going to encourage you to approach this low lunge in a slightly different way. So often we low lunge and we talk about keeping the knee at or behind the toes. But I'm going to encourage you to take your knee beyond your toes. A couple things happening there. Number 1, just something different, right? And as long as it feels okay in your knee, we can do that. I'm going to slide my back knee back a little further to get a little more stretch at the top of the back thigh. But something else that we can do as the knee moves forward, it's dragging or lifting the heel up and increasing the stretch that we're feeling through the calf. So whether you have that knee pressing forward beyond the toes, you can see that here, or not. We'll stay here in this low lunge, lifting the chest, lengthening the spine. As always, breathing into the spaces where we feel stretch happening, where we're creating space. Take a big breath in here. And as you breathe out, toes tuck under, hips shift back, come into a relatively short pyramid. I'm going to go ahead and leave these blocks underneath my hands so that I can really focus on squaring the pelvis. The further down the hands go, I mean, depending on your proportions, but the further down the hands go, the possibility that we're moving just a little too deep into that, or maybe the pelvis is dipping. So we'll think about the front foot, that hip crease, pull it back and lift it up. Pull it back and lift it up. Feel nice stretch and space happening all along the back of that front leg thigh. Take a big breath in. Breathe out. We'll be changing to the other side. You have some options. You could just simply change in your low lunge. You could come into downward facing dog again, or if you'd like a little bit of vinyasa in your practice today, you could do that. Stepping back into plank, on toes or knees, shifting forward, lowering down, inhale cobra or upward facing dog, and exhale into downward facing dog. Now, however you get there, other foot steps through, coming into our low lunge. And then again, if you want to explore that space with a short low lunge, dragging that front foot back, placing the hands out in front, maybe sliding the back knee further back when you'd like more stretch at the top of the thigh. Keeping the chest lifted. And of course, breathing deep. Let's take one more breath here. Shift the hips back, tuck the back toes under, and we'll come into that relatively short pyramid pose. Front foot, think about that hip crease pulling up toward the ceiling and back toward the wall behind you. And we're doing our level best to level out the pelvis just so that we can experience a really nice stretch along the back of the thigh. Check back in with your breath if you haven't done so recently. Breathe deep. And we'll take one more breath here. As you're ready to, moving into down dog. Any way you'd like to get there, again, if you want a little vinyasa in your practice, you can take that as well. I think I'm going to take another one through here. And coming into downward facing dog. We're going to use downward facing dog a little bit as a kind of a touchstone that we come back to, a familiar place. Coming back into our breath here. As you're ready to, lowering the knees down, we could get curious about this and see if we could just simply lower the knees down instead of shifting forward. Is it possible? Maybe. The knees land back down. We arrive back in table pose. So for table pose, we'll be working with, again, something relatively familiar, thread the needle. You may want to have a block handy nearby. I've been practicing with a block lately, just to bring my head and shoulders down to a comfortable place. So we'll be sliding one hand forward. You could do this on either side because we're going to repeat it. The other arm begins to slide underneath. underneath. Now maybe we're just even leaving the forearm down here without sliding down to the shoulder, but if we wanted to take it a little bit further, we might place the head and the shoulder down onto the block. And then if it feels good to take your head and shoulder all the way down to the ground, of course you're welcome to do that. The arm that is extended, pull that hip crease back and see if you can lengthen out through that arm. I know sometimes it's difficult to straighten the arm out. Do the best you can to bring some stretch, some space into the side body. And we'll take one more breath here. And then as you're ready to, changing sides. I'm going to use a block, so I'm just going to place that in place. Sliding other hand, make sure that you've changed sides. Other hand slides forward, long through the arm. Bringing head and shoulder to the ground, to a block. Anytime it feels better for you, you could simply let the head and shoulder hang in space. Arm that's extended, see if you can pull that hip crease back. And we'll take one more breath here as you're ready to, rising back up. And once again, using downward facing dog is sort of a place that we come back to. So tucking toes under, lifting hips up. Vinyasa is something you can add in there if you'd like to. Coming back to your deep, smooth, even breath. Lower the knees back down. Maybe do that without shifting forward, if you think about it. Come on back down to table, and we'll work with bird dog. Knees come closer together, extending leg out behind you. If you're curious about it, we might think about keeping the pelvis level here. Really takes a lot of strength through the supporting hip muscles. So gluteus medius needs to be really strong to keep the pelvis level. So it is difficult. And if you are looking at the screen while I'm doing it, you'll see that maybe mine is not level. I've got a little hip issue going on. And so those muscles are not as strong on me right now. So lifting the leg up. Option to extend the arm forward. But another option, if it doesn't feel good to take your arm all the way out in front of you, if your shoulder doesn't love it, take your arm out to the side on a diagonal, or maybe take it out to the side like a wing. Perhaps even experimenting with something that's just different from how you usually move. We'll hold for one more breath there. And as you're ready to, slide the hand and knee back into place. Change sides, other leg extends out. Lifting, trying to keep the pelvis level. Option to extend the arm forward or diagonal or all the way out to the side. Low belly draws in and up. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, slide hand and knee back into place. We're going to go to the first side and come into our bird dog. You found that before, you can find that again. Take a breath in from here. As you breathe out, put the hand down if you have it lifted. Lifted leg shifts over on a diagonal. So I'm lifting my left leg. That means my left foot is going to tap over to the right side and lean into that. My left leg is tapped over to the right and I'm leaning my hips back over to the left. Take a big breath in, breathe out, reset the knee. We'll try the other side. Excuse me, so changing sides. Leg lifts up into bird dog, opposite arm lifts if that feels good to you. We'll take a breath in here. As you breathe out, place the hand back down. Lifted leg floats over to the opposite side. So right now my right leg is lifted, I've floated it over to the left, and then I'm leaning my hips a little bit to the right. So we're trying to get a side body stretch, especially down through the hip, working its way up through the waist. We'll take one more breath here. As you're ready to, unwinding that leg, returning any way that you'd like to downward facing dog. So if you'd like to move through a vinyasa, you're welcome to do that. Finding your breath, reconnecting to it. Any kind kind of movement, whether it's movement or stillness that you might like to have here. Each time that we come into downward facing dog, it could be something different. Now, as you're ready to, we're moving from down dog into high lunge. We could walk the feet together, lift a leg up, swing it through, or you can always come down onto the knees and step the foot through. We're going to come into high lunge, so you may or may not want to have those blocks handy. Lifting up, take a breath in, the arms stretch out. Good. Possibility of lifting the arms up if you'd like to take that. Now we're in the lunge position, so see if you can get the heel up in the back. If that doesn't feel good to you, you can always place the heel back down for more stability. We'll take a breath in here. As you breathe out, let the arms swing back down and around. We'll open out to the long side of your mat, Virabhadrasana 2. Notice I'm not really saying right or left. You can take this in any direction you like, and just know that when we change sides, just make sure that you have changed sides. So front knee in our Virabhadrasana 2 is pointing straight forward out over the foot. And you may be doing some work through the back of that hip in order to make that happen. Take a big breath in. As you breathe out, straighten out the front leg, moving into triangle. Now you may like to, just out of curiosity, bring your hands down onto your pelvis so that you can feel that the pelvis can tip. And I often say, if you're in my classes, it's like a little teapot. Here's the spout, here's the handle in the back, right? And we want to tip it. And we want that tip to happen at the pelvis. So feeling like your hip crease is being pulled back as we tip into triangle, Trikonasana. Now we don't have to go really far. We're not trying to put the hand down on the ground. If you've got a lot of hip flexion happening, if that feels good and you can reach further down, that's great. But what I'd like to do is introduce some triangle lifts. Okay. So as you're ready to, we'll lift back up to the top. Make sure the pelvis shifts back into neutral. Take a big breath in. And as you breathe out, slowly, slowly, slowly move into triangle. You may even want to keep this front hand floating so that we're not using it as a balance point. We'll lift up pretty quick. Try that again. Slowly, slowly, slowly floating down. Great, and back up. We'll try that one more time. And back up, right. Turn that front foot so it's now parallel with the back foot. I'll turn and face you here. Feet are wide apart. From here, let's angle the feet just slightly out. We're not in ballet class, so it doesn't have to be like huge turnout. And sink down into horse stance or temple or goddess pose. Take a breath in. We've got the hands resting on the thighs. Hinge forward slightly from the hip. I'm going to move back just a little bit here to give me some room. And then once we've hinged forward from the hips, let one shoulder drop down in the direction of your opposite leg. Other shoulder, you'll feel it rolling back, and we can even squeeze the shoulder blade into the spine. Hand resting on the thigh, gently pressing. Take a breath in, come back through the center. We're still hinged forward just a little bit, and then rotate in the other direction. And then we'll just keep going with that. Inhaling through the center, and exhaling to twist. Inhaling, and exhaling. One more time through the center and the side. Great. Rising all the way back up. Let the feet be parallel. We could step, walk, or hop the feet together and take a little march in place and take a breath. Now we're going to move to the other side standing. If you'd prefer to just simply change sides, standing, you can do that. If you'd like to move back down into down dog or move through vinyasa, you're welcome to do that too. I think I'm just going to remain standing, and I'll give you a moment. So however you've gotten there, we're coming into high lunge on the other side. So think about which leg was in front. That means I'm going to change sides. I suddenly realized. And step back into high lunge, or maybe you have stepped forward into high lunge. A little bit different from, the orientation in a class where usually the teacher is facing forward and you're facing the teacher. So yeah, just sort of our running theme of doing something a little bit different sometimes. So arms could reach out, arms could reach up, whatever feels better to you. Take a big breath in here. And as you breathe out, open out to the long side of your mat, Virabhadrasana 2. Take a moment to notice, was I already on this side? Do I need to change sides? Settle into it, front knee tracking out over the middle of the foot. And take one more deep breath here. As you're ready to begin to straighten out the front leg, hands can move down onto the pelvis. Again, that idea that the pelvis tips a little bit, right? A little bit, or maybe a lot, depending on how it feels for you. And off we go into triangle. So tilting through the pelvis, stretching the hand down. Other arm could reach back or up. I'm going to give my leg just a little wiggle here for my knee. There it is. And then we're going to work with some triangle lifts. So coming all the way back up to the top, pelvis moves into neutral, take a big breath in, and as you breathe out, find that pelvic tilt, side tilt, stretch the arm out, maybe floating it or placing it down when you need to, and then lift up quickly. So we'll repeat that, moving slow into our triangle, slow, 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 right? And lifting up quickly, moving slow into our triangle, and lifting up quick, maybe feeling the side body really working as we move slow through that. Slow, and lifting up quickly. Great, lower the arms down, feet move parallel to each other. We'll walk, or step, or hop the feet together, and take a little march in place. We're going to be working with a pose called fig tree. We don't see it very often, but it's something that I learned a long time ago. And so we'll work with that. I'm going to face you to start, and then I'm going to turn to the long side of my mat and face the front of my mat. So bringing the feet together, one foot, our standing foot, the other foot, the trailing foot, moves behind, straight behind, like you were just going to step out onto that front foot. Front foot arm, whichever one matches to your front foot, is going to come straight up like you have an urgent question, palm facing forward. The other arm will trail back on the same line that the back leg is on, sort of a diagonal. Great, so sacred fig tree pose or Bodhi tree pose. Now here's where we're going to do a little bit of work as we step onto that front foot, right? And then I forgot to say, if the shoulder doesn't love going all the way overhead, you could always take the arm parallel to the ground or just leave that arm down. So the tricky part of the balance happens here, in that we're trying to lift the back foot up by squeezing the back of the hip and not by tipping forward. So give that a try here. Squeezing into the back of the hip, trying to lift the foot any amount off the ground without leaning very far forward. All right, so that's our fig tree. I'm here at the front of my mat. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and you can come into that. One foot steps back, weight on the front foot, that side arm goes up, other arm trails back. Then as you're ready to, step onto the front foot a little more as if you're going to take a step forward. Squeeze the back of your hip just like we do in bird dog, just like we did, and see if you can lift the toes any amount off the ground without leaning forward. That becomes the trick. Take one more breath, lower it back down, give everything a good shake, a little reset, and we can try the other side. All right, off we go. Stepping onto the other foot, make sure you've changed sides. Arm lifts up, or we could bring the arm down on parallel to the ground. Leg trails behind, arm follows it. When you're ready to, step onto the foot like you're going to take a step forward without leaning forward, and then see if you can come into this bird dog leg. Low belly's drawing in and up, so keeping the pelvis from tilting forward, low belly draws in and up to keep their pelvis in neutral. And we'll take one more breath here. Release. Little shake, shake. We're going to repeat that in a little bit of a flow, and we're going to add traditional tree onto that. I'm going to come back to what is the front of my mat here, and off we go. So stepping the feet pretty close together, pick up your, and I will give directions for this one. Pick up your right heel, and I will not be mirroring you. I'm picking up my right heel. Right heel picks up, tap or float that foot back into arrowhead, a leaning lunge, right, so that we already have weight on the front foot. As you're ready to, breathe in and come into your fig tree of stepping onto the front foot. That same side arm will float up, arm trails behind. Find a lift in your right leg like bird dog. Take a breath in here. As you breathe out, drag that back knee forward, hands can come to heart center, and we'll come into a traditional tree, what we know as tree, our Vrikshasana. Great, and so there you are. Here I am from the front, so traditional tree, Vrikshasana. Take one more breath in, breathe out, lower the leg, lower the arms, maybe a little shake, maybe a little reset. And we'll try that on the other side. So as you're ready to, stepping your left foot back into arrowhead, leaning lunge. Kind of change sides here, but I've got the correct leg back. So now we're stepping weight onto the right foot, which is in front. We'll get ready to step onto it for our fig tree. Stepping onto the front foot, arm comes either out or up overhead, whatever feels comfortable. Squeeze into the back of your left leg hip, just like we do in bird dog, to lift and find this fig tree balance. Take a breath here, and then as you're ready to, back leg drags forward, hands come to heart center. Here I am turning and facing forward. We can even leave the ball of the foot down anytime that you need a little extra stability there from the ground up, or floating the foot up onto the leg, and we come into our traditional, what we think of as traditional tree, from fig tree to traditional tree. Take one more breath here. As you breathe out, lower the leg, lower the arms, and give everything a good shake. Take a moment, maybe even just standing in place. You can even close your eyes if you'd like to just take a breath, take a pause in your practice. Great, we're gonna make our way back down onto the mat, coming into downward facing dog, and you can do that any way you like. If you'd like to come through vinyasa, you're welcome to do that. If you'd like to simply step back and make your way into down dog, we'll take that. So taking one more breath here, we arrive in down dog, however you've gotten there. From downward facing dog, shift forward into your plank pose. We'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out, lower the knees down if you did have them lifted, roll open to the long side of your mat, and we'll find side plank. So any kind of side plank variation that you'd like, knee down, maybe legs straight. We have an option of drawing the top leg knee in and perhaps finding a tree-like shape, tree pose shape here. Take a breath in. Breathe out. Unwind if you were in that tree-like shape, and we'll come back down to hands and knees. Anything that you'd like to do, maybe moving through vinyasa, shifting back to child's pose, whatever feels like the thing you need to be doing right now. We'll wind up meeting in downward facing dog, and I'll just change sides here so that I can still face you. There's our downward facing dog. Take a breath in, slide forward to plank. That could be on toes or knees. Now if you're on your toes, lower the knees down. We'll open out to side plank. Any kind of variation that you'd like to take on your side plank, whether you have the bottom knee down, both legs straight. And then of course there's that option to take tree inside plank, drawing the knee in toward you, rotating the knee open just as much as it will go. And it can be interesting to feel on the back of the hip. Maybe it's that bottom knee, if you're down on your knee, maybe it's the bottom knee that's feeling a little bit more work as it stabilizes. The bottom knee is in external rotation if your knee is down. If your legs are out straight, they're probably in neutral rotation. So take one more breath wherever you are. Take a breath in, breathe out, lower back down to plank. Let's all find child's pose. Any version of that works, and if you've got a block handy nearby, you want to use that under your head, your forehead, you're welcome to that. We'll take one more breath here. Rising back up to hands and knees, table. I'm going to just turn back to what I'm calling the front of my mat here, and we'll work with pigeon pose. In pigeon, sometimes it's nice to have a block handy nearby to help support the pelvis so that the pelvis can be level as we fold forward, looking for that stretch in the back of the hip. So off we go. We'll slide one knee or the other forward. I'm going to slide my right knee forward first, and then perhaps bringing a block underneath. Slide the pelvis when you'd like to. Just noting that the back leg is extending out behind you in neutral, so not rolling in or out. And then we can begin to fold forward just as much as is possible. Now on this side, I don't get a lot of fold these days with my hip the way it is right now. So I'm gonna use a block to help support, but you're most welcome to fold as deep as you feel like it. Remembering that we wanna look for something that feels helpful. All right, so folding deep these days does not feel super helpful on this side. And so I'm gonna stay right here. I just love that idea of the poses being helpful to us, right? Because it's one thing to be able to get there, to be able to crank ourselves into a pose, but if it doesn't feel helpful once you've gotten to that depth, it's maybe telling you something about the range of motion that you need. I'll take one more breath here. As you're ready to rising back up, unfolding out of our pigeon. Maybe you'd even like to come into an up dog or kneeling up dog just to open back out. So folding up and opening out. Origami yoga. And then we'll come into pigeon on the other side. Other knee slides forward, leg goes behind. Again, just ensuring that that back leg is relatively neutral for you. Bringing a block in when you'd like to. And then folding just as deep as you need to within this shape. One side may be different from the other, and that's perfectly fine. Take one more deep breath here. Rising back up to hands and knees. Again, option for you here. Moving into up dog or maybe even kneeling up dog, something just really gentle. Folding and unfolding. And coming back up to hands and knees. We'll have a seat, bring your legs out in front of you. Extending one leg out, bending the other knee for Janu Shirshasana. And possibility of sitting up onto a block when that feels better for you. Maybe even using a block underneath this straight leg. It might feel nice as well. Take a big breath in, sit tall. Bring out, rotate toward your straight leg. So getting just a little bit of a spine twist, and then beginning to hinge forward from the hip. But think about hinging from the hip and not hinging at the waist. So if you're not sure what I mean, here is hinging at the waist, right? We get the head down and the shoulders down. And if we're hinging only at the hip, head and shoulders remain up. So we'll hinge forward from the hip, and then from there, you can decide, once you've gotten some nice stretch into the back of the thigh, if you'd like to hinge from the waist and maybe introduce some stretch into the back, and perhaps draping the head down for a small stretch in the neck. And take a breath in to rise back up, and as you breathe out, rotating toward your bent knee side, just getting gentle twist in the other direction. Rotate and derotate, and then come back through the center. Changing sides, I'm going to sit up onto a block for this side. Other leg extends out. You'll probably figure that one out pretty easily. Use a block here underneath my knee to make it feel comfortable. So starting to hinge forward from the hip. First starting a small rotation toward the straight leg side, then hinging forward from the hip. And this bent knee, I should say, now that we're on the second side, this bent knee does not have to bend a whole lot. You could keep that foot out on your calf. You could slide the heel up to pelvic floor, just whatever feels the most comfortable to you. So we're hinging from the hip, length in the low back, feeling stretch through the back of the thigh. And then if it feels good to you, you could hinge from the waist, introduce a little bit more stretch into the back, maybe working its way up. And as you're ready to breathing in and sitting all the way back up. So practicing here at home, we have the option to work with legs up the wall. Legs up the wall. Of course, I have this on the wall right now, so the legs up onto that. But hopefully you can find a blank spot of wall to go to. Option, if you don't have a wall to get to, you could use a block on its low side and place it under your pelvis. I'll show that to you right now. That might turn out to be my option here. Just a little bit of work as we lift the legs up and hold the legs up, but that's a nice option as well. So if you do have space along the wall, that you can work legs up the wall, you're gonna scoot close to that wall, about a handprint distance away from the wall with the side of your hip. We begin to rotate the legs up onto the wall. Let's see if that's gonna work. Yes, they're right at the edge of that frame. And so bringing the legs up onto the wall, and we do wanna have a slight angle, so this isn't a hamstring stretch. We want the legs to angle onto the wall so they feel relaxing staying here. Another option, if you've got that belt, is to wrap the belt just above the knees and have that, relatively firm. You've got about a fist distance between the legs. And then if you're using the belt, you can allow the legs to fall out into the support of the belt, maybe making it a little more relaxing for you. Now, if you'd like to finish your practice in legs up the wall, you're most welcome to do that. So you'll just stay as long as you like, as long as you have time for. If you'd prefer to finish your practice in a more traditional shape of Shavasana, you can begin to shift and find that position right now. Close our practice together here. As always, I highly encourage you to stay in your Shavasana as long as you have time for. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, and I thank you for our practice together. Namaste.